Hey, it's Clay. How you guys doing? I wanted to do a little bit of a vlog today, and I want to talk about buying gear and some of the tips and tricks that I have to help save money and make informed decisions, and just kind of some of the methods that I've used over the years. I have bought and sold a lot of pedals and amps and guitars and parts and tubes, and oh man, the list is countless. If I had to write down everything that I've owned throughout the last probably 10 years of playing guitar, it would be a really, really long list. Um, but I've gotten to a place where I can do all of that and kind of tweak my rig or find things that work or just try things out just to see if I like it or not without necessarily incurring a lot of expenses, and keeping things relatively fluid and liquid. So I wanted to just kind of throw this out there if you are interested in guitar gear and you are looking for some tips and tricks on how to improve that process. This is it. So first and foremost is you will be interested in something. I'm sure there's something on your mind that you're interested in. And the first thing that I want to share with you guys is how to do a really good search. So there are a whole bunch of different forums out there. I'm going to use the Timmy as an example. It's an overdrive pedal. And sometimes if you just do like Timmy review, that can work. But I mean, some of this can be really good stuff. But you have to realize that Google will, these searches are probably geared towards me. You know, you can see that the gear page is listed here. I spend a lot of time on the gear page. I play in a worship band. I do watch a lot of YouTube videos. So this is clearly tailored towards me. So what I'm saying is YouTube is a little bit unreliable just because the results are going to be geared towards you and what Google knows that your interests are. So there are ways to get a little bit more specified information. And one is to use this little trick. It's this right here. If you go to Google, I'll open up a new one, and you just type site : and then you enter in the website that you're wanting to search as a database. So in this case, I'm going to use the gearpage.net. You could use anything, literally anything go in there. You can use Reddit, you can use TDPRI, Harmony Central, whatever database you want to use, you could do all of them. There's some good stuff in there, and then you can search whatever you want. Now the gear page does have a search function, but I'm not actually a huge fan of how it works. It's limiting in the way that I'm just not a huge fan. I would much rather do this. So let's just, if this is what I did right here, I just did site : thegearpage.net space, and then whatever your search term is. So I'm just going to do Timmy, and this is what comes up. And the thing that I really like about this is if you click on your search tools, you can enter in I usually do within the past year, or sometimes you can do within the last couple of years. You can sort by a lot of different things. You can, I mean, you have a lot better control over your search, and typically there's a ton of really, really good information in these threads. You can do review, you could do versus OCD, you could do, I mean, there's anything that you can think of to search is going to be in a lot of these forums, whether it's the gear page, TDPRI, Reddit, Harmony Central. I mean, there's so much good information here. So start here and read reviews, and read just feedback. And what I try to do is I try to kind of, like, let's just go ahead and let's do Timmy review. So what I would do is, you know, I would just kind of browse through some of these forums and just kind of take all of these opinions in, but I wouldn't take any of them. You can see there's right here. There's some stuff there. I mean, that's a valid opinion, and you want to take, you know, just read through it. You'll get a sense. What you're trying to do is get an overall sense for what the overall opinions are. You may hear some negative ones. That's very, very common for somebody to not like it, but you're trying to just take it all as an overarching, what's the general sense of this pedal. You're not necessarily taking one review as gospel truth, because that just doesn't exist. It's everybody has an opinion. You're just trying to get an overarching opinion of the piece of gear. Next, I'll go to YouTube, and I will listen to some YouTube videos and just listen to some demos of them. Now, with YouTube demos, this is also really important, is that you don't take any of them as gospel truth either, because when you're listening to a YouTube demo, you're listening to a combination of that player's hands, the cables they're using, the effects they're using, the amp they're using, the speaker they're using, the microphone they're using, the preamp they're using, the interface they're using, and then any post-editing effects, EQ, compression, and then all of that is edited and compressed into YouTube itself. So all of those variables could be different than yours, and the only thing that could stay the same is the pedal. So, if you look at Greg V's demo, he might be using a Gibson SG into a Swart Atomic amp, into a really nice mic, into a really nice preamp, but maybe you play a Strat into a deluxe reverb. I mean, you have to take that into account when you listen to this. So again, use the YouTube demos as something to give you an overarching generalization of the pedal. How versatile is it in terms of gain ranges and EQ settings? What is the overarching character with each of the, are there certain guitars or certain amps that you like it better or worse with? All of this is just information, and then you add the information that you get from YouTube and you combine it with the kind of the general overarching reviews that you get from some of these forums, and that gives you kind of a overarching sense of what the pedals are like. And so that kind of just gives you a starting point. Now from there, let's say, okay, I really like what I saw, what I heard, and I want to pull the trigger. So let's talk about actually buying the gear and how you can do that in a way that is efficient and saving money and doesn't incur a lot of risk. The internet can be a very wild and crazy place, but here are some of my tips and tricks. So first and foremost, I'm a big fan of buy and sell classified emporium sections, whatever you want to call them, on forums. So the Gear Page is my forum of choice, and they have a whole emporium buy and sell section. And these are, for the most part, very, very reliable. There are instances of people who get ripped off. There are some fail safes, but in my experience, let's say I wanted to buy this guy's HD500. So if you're looking at this, first and foremost, take a look at their profile. How many posts do they have? When's their join date? That's a really important thing. 2012, that's been about 3 years now. Good deals is really nice. What kind of communication are you having with them? Are they responsive? Are they using full sentences in English? For the most part, if you think about it, if you are a scammer, are you going to join a forum 3 years ago, put all this trouble into doing this, get your good deals into your signature? Scammers, it would have to be a very elaborate scam. Not to say it can't happen, but for the most part, my experience with the Emporium has been very reliable. And one of the things that I would highly recommend, if I take a step back, is that I always will recommend buying used. I almost never buy something new, just because in my experience with guitar gear, if you buy used and it's not for you, which can totally happen, you can sell it for oftentimes what you bought it for if you got a decent deal. So within the used market, the first place that I will generally look is a place like the Gear Page Emporium. Other places are probably equally as good. Reverb.com is very similar to the Gear Pages Emporium, except it's only for stuff like this. So you could do Reverb.com has been reliable for me. I haven't used it a ton, just because, not out of choice, just because I think this website is more relatively new than my knowledge and use of the Gear Page. And actually, to be honest, my knowledge of Reverb as a source for stuff really came up after I got my Axe-Fx 2, and since I got my Axe-Fx 2, my buying and selling of gear has been really low. So what I will do, so I really like the Gear Page Emporium, I really like Reverb, and then my secret hidden gem is actually Guitar Center. Now, the used section. So if you do a search and you always want to click on this used button, well, that's not what we want. Maybe they don't have any Timmys on Guitar Center used. That could very well be. But Guitar Center used, in my experience, has some really strong. Okay, so they just don't have any. They have some really. There are certain things that I think are really fantastic to buy on Guitar Center used. And there are a couple reasons for this. One is that their prices are oftentimes really, really low. So let's look at like a HC 500. So, and we'll do used. A lot of times their prices are quite good. These aren't so good. $300 is a little high. And then actually I would sort price low to high like this. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Bam. $250. That's actually a pretty dang good price for an HC 500. Now, when you look at this, it could seem a little sketchy. You only get a picture. There's no description. I think it has a condition of good. But what I would do, and I actually have bought from Guitar Center used a few times, is I would call the store and just ask them about the product. Typically, the guys there can at least give you some information. Maybe there is some information, you know, when the product was brought in. They can just give you any information is better than none. But then the real reason why I like Guitar Center used is, one, their prices are really low, and part of that is because the stores are actually competing with one another. So if you can see, these are, if you go to this one, this HC 500 is just from a different store, but it's $50 more. So they're competing with one another, and sometimes they really want to move something, so they'll drop the price way low. Like, I've gotten some really screaming deals on stuff on Guitar Center used, and a lot of times, if you take a look at the prices, will even be lower. Yeah, these are going to be up more towards $300. Yeah, this is definitely more expensive. You know, the lowest I'm seeing is kind of in about around the 300 range, 299. Yeah, so I mean, you're saving about $50. This is just one example, but and then the real reason why I like Guitar Center used is that their return policy applies to used goods, and that is huge because they have a tremendous return policy. Their return policy is pretty much no questions asked within 30 days, I think. It's down here somewhere. You can look it up if you wish. But so if you don't like it for any reason, you can send it back to them, and then what you're out is the shipping cost. So you would lose shipping. But I mean, that's no different than if you bought it off of the gear page and then wanted to sell it again. You're still going to be out shipping. So you basically get to try it with no risk whatsoever. You can return it and get your money back minus shipping. And I mean, it's extremely safe. You don't even have a return policy like that on some of these forums. Here you're basically dealing with trust. If they wanted to rip you off, they relatively could. But with Guitar Center, you have, number one, a corporation who can handle a lower price on some of these goods that aren't really moving. And then on the flip side, you have the backing up, the security of mind with their return policy. So, and then the last place I generally look is eBay. I don't like eBay as much just because it's more of a hassle. I think eBay is, I don't know, eBay just isn't my cup of tea. And I feel like you can get just as good of deals on GuitarCenter.com's used section. But with eBay, you don't have any of the return policy, or you can't really call the seller up and ask them about the product. It just isn't as good, in my opinion. So with all of that together, you have some really good options. Step one is do some research. Use this search method that I recommended. Site : and then enter. So if you wanted to do So it'd be like that. You could do whatever so you do site : whatever the website you want to search is, and then space, and then whatever terms you want to search. You can search anything you want. There's a lot of good information to see on the internet to give you a pretty accurate. If you read some threads, you can get an overarching sense. Combine that with some YouTube videos, which will again help give you more information to give an overarching sense. And then when you're ready to pull the trigger and buy, maybe consider becoming a little bit active on a forum. If that's not for you, try reverb.com or Guitar Center Used. And then as a last ditch effort, maybe consider eBay. But if you continue to buy, if you do everything kind of with this method, your risk is really relatively low. If you kind of know what you're looking for in terms of, what does a scammer look like? Well, he's probably going to be not writing full sentences in English. He's going to be kind of shady. He's going to have a relatively new account. Any of those red flags. But those are pretty commonsensical. And because you're buying used, you can probably sell stuff for what you bought it for in the first place. So really all you're doing is you're just kind of trading things around. And with some patience, you can build up a really, really nice, rig that fits your needs. If your needs change, maybe you're playing a different gig, you might need to change some things out. Well, it's not a huge deal because with some of these methods, you can minimize risk and also keep your overhead costs way down. You don't have to worry about losing a ton of money with depreciation because you're buying used. And with all of that, those are kind of my tips for buying guitar gear and being sensible about it. So please let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you have any more tips to share with the community or myself, I think we would all love to hear them. And good happy hunting for your gear search in the future. Thanks. Bye.